We've set a challenge for 3 geography teachers from King Edward VI Five-Ways School in Birmingham. They're being summoned to a secret location where they'll find this box. Inside are 4 mystery resources and an envelope containing the subject of the lesson they need to prepare and teach to this class of Year 9 pupils by this afternoon. The team is led by award-winning Head of Geography Paula Cooper, but it's the 2 young teachers from her department that will be teaching the final 50-minute lesson. Graduate teacher Stuart Deere is the youngest member of the team. He's got lots of enthusiasm, but very little experience.
Starter.
God, I think making it relevant and bringing it to life is one of the most important things in geography.
Second on the team is NQT Katie Bush. She's used to carefully planning her lessons, but this time she'll need to think quickly.
I know.
I need to make a decision because I think we've got them in about 5 minutes.
Often teaching is thought to be a lot of planning, and it is, but sometimes the best ideas come when you walk into a classroom and go, actually, I've just thought of a brilliant starter.
Their challenge: use the resources they discover in the box to create an innovative lesson that brings key Stage 3 geography to life.
What are we going to do with that?
Interesting.
Okay, we'll just think about that one for a while, maybe.
It's 8:30 a.m. and our intrepid team of geography teachers are stepping out of their comfort zone. They're on the way to a mystery location where they'll find out the subject of the lesson and the resources they'll be using. They've also got to find one more resource of their own to use in the lesson.
We could have anything though and link it to geography.
Oh, this is it. They could put anything in there.
The resources inside the box have been specially chosen by 2 experts in the field. First expert is John Thorns, a meteorologist from the University of Birmingham.
I think geography teachers sometimes make it too sort of statistical, and I think some of the sort of more unexciting lessons are often when you're learning just reams of statistics about a particular place. So I think you can make it much more exciting than that.
The second expert comes from the Royal Geographical Society, Kate Amis. She trains geography ambassadors who go into schools to work alongside teachers. She often uses a hot topic bag that contains objects which spark creative thinking in the young trainees.
It might be the simplest of things, like a chopstick, and that might represent China. It might be some house keys that might represent property or property prices, the credit crunch. It might be a £20 note, that's always a good one. I hope the teachers will be excited when they open their box. Lots of nice, touchy-feely, exciting things.
The team are almost at their destination.
The centre of the font.
They've arrived in the heart of Birmingham City. We're bringing them to a brownfield site with a difference. It's on top of a roof. This sustainable, eco-friendly space should give them a clue to the topic of their lesson.
Oh, here's the box. There's a box.
The box. Okay.
So you can open it.
Got it.
There's one here. Let's have a look.
Oh, okay.
Aha!
Oh,
you can read
goodness. Okay, let's see what's in the envelope. Climate change.
Blimey.
An easy, small topic then, Lee. What have we got else then?
A jar.
A jar.
Right.
An empty jar.
Right.
What are we going to do with that?
Interesting.
Okay, we'll just
No idea.
think about that one for a while, maybe.
2 CDs. Interesting.
CDs.
If I see 2.
What else have we got? Yeah, lots of paper.
Oh,
wow. Oh, they fit together.
Wonderful. The Earth. Fantastic. Highly appropriate.
I love the pictures of the whales. I think they're brilliant, and I think that they're an amazing resource to use just because they have the wow factor. And then obviously there was a rubber ring, and that was slightly bizarre. It took us a while to sort of work out how we were going to use that.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
The link to the sea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe the Joker.
Excellent.
Is there anything else?
Is there anything else in there?
A newspaper.
Cut pollution, you must be choking.
Okay.
Okay,
About
comparing
Kyoto and
countries,
China.
that's interesting. We're going to really have to think about where to start, I think, with the topic of climate change.
Some
Yeah,
cracking
definitely.
visual
Yeah,
aids.
yeah,
to get us
yeah.
We're
going.
hoping for something really good, really stimulating and challenging in the visual stuff here, so that might be our starting point, maybe. But I don't know, it's like,
We need some
Daunting
thinking
prospect.
space.
it's a bit daunting, but be all right.
These are the key, I think.
Yeah.
What's going to be on these?
Right, let's
Right.
go.
Let's go and get some planning done.
Lead the way,
Right.
Stu.
We took them away and then we kind of slightly thought, well, what on earth are we going to do with these? And when we had almost the biggest issue was the topic, because it is so huge. And actually your role as a geography teacher is to make this really dense, difficult, much misrepresented topic clearer and understandable and digestible for them. So we had to focus on some part, but I think our initial discussions were, my goodness, where are we going to start?
What are we going to do with these? So we're looking at climate change.
This is made in China, so that would help contribute and get them thinking about that. So it's really thinking about who is responsible for this. Is it solely China, or can we start to think about other countries contributing as part of that? So our next concern was, what aspect of this are we going to focus on? And we had to make a decision quite quickly, because then we wanted to get on with our planning. So that was really important. Like, what aspect is it going to be? I think the thing that we're most perplexed by is
The jar is perplexing. So we're still, an idea of where it's made, that's important. And perhaps it is full of atmosphere and you can't see it, and yet it's our greatest threat. Might be a prop to help make a point.
Yeah.
What other resource could we add to our bank of resources that we have here?
We could use that World Mapper map. We'll have to go onto the internet and have a
Yeah.
look at it. But I'm sure they've got one with CO2 production
Absolutely.
on.
And they're visually stunning, aren't they?
Yeah.
Really good, focused on places and where it's being produced, and that would enable us to make some really good links with real places across the planet.
Back at the school, the team need to gather up their own final object to add to the lesson. They're going for a map resource they've used before, and it's downloadable from the web.
You go to A to Z map index. And go down, carbon dioxide. I think we thought that as geographers there really ought to be a map in there. Maps are sort of fundamental to what we do. They're kind of the language of geography in a way, and that visual and graphical literacy is really important. And we thought the World Mapper, because it's a skewed version, a deliberate view of the world, we thought that would be really interesting to put in, so that you've got the satellite image of the planet and you've got this representation of the planet. And we thought it was quite a good link between the planet and the issue. Oh, that's quite good. It's pretty clear, isn't it, who the producers and who aren't.
So that'd be really good in that, as it is 2000, we could then compare it to the graph that we have on the newspaper article and say, how would this map change if we made an up-to-date 2008 one?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely
So
scope for
China
them to
would then
update
be
it.
getting
Increasing
bigger.
China's prominence. And it just illustrates it really nicely in a way that can provoke a lot of analysis and a lot of in-depth thought with distorting the countries. It's really nice to see.
There's just so many hooks and prompts, isn't there, for them to make comments about the CO2 contribution of different nations in different parts. And I think we could pick up ideas of uneven development and uneven impacts. So maybe that would be a good prompt. Give them some places to refer to, maybe.
Right, so we need to get that printed off then.
Yeah, let's get going.
Let's go.
Super.
We've got 45 minutes, I think, so we need to be ready. So we need to start planning.
But first, they're going to watch the DVDs that came in the box. They contain some crucial tips from the experts.
My name is Kate Amis. I manage the Geography Ambassador scheme here at the Royal Geographical Society in Kensington, London. I've chosen this inflatable plastic ring as my first prop. I think it would make a great opener, a great warmer, a real hands-on feel to the beginning of the lesson. The pupils will be looking at it and thinking, what could the link be between this and global warming? Do they recognise the plastic industry is a source of global emissions? The second object I've chosen is this newspaper article. Quite light on text, it contains a graph and a photograph behind. So it's a great resource to use with children, thinking about looking at that graph very critically, getting the pupils to look at the graph critically. What is it actually showing us? Because apart from science, you do also need to make reference to the way in which media handles the issue.
I think it's really interesting because obviously she was thinking of this being used as a starter, and that's what we
thought.
Beginning to think about.
I like it coming up at the beginning as a prompt, like the kids, like you said, what is this about? And then but it also remaining important throughout the lesson as the starter, but also fundamentally as a product that is directly contributing to the problem that we see.
And then this is good as well because she was picking up the detail of the graph and the text. I think if we think of creative ways of using that as well, then that'll really come out reading that carefully.
Well, one quite good way is to separate the key elements of the article, which encourages the students to be more, and to be critical, I think is really important.
My name is Professor John Thorns from the University of Birmingham, the School of Geography, Earth and Environmental Sciences. Yes, I think when the teachers initially get this out of the box, they'll probably see this is an image that they've had many times before, or they think it's so familiar that they'll think, well, what's this to do with climate change? But I think the obvious thing that the image shows us is that the Earth and the sort of planet Earth is in fact actually surrounded by atmosphere. Hopefully they will realise that the atmosphere is very small, and it's almost like the varnish on a globe. It's very thin and very fragile, but at the same time the atmosphere is actually our most valuable resource on the planet. So the second object is, of course, this jar. What we need to think about is the links between what's in this jar and this picture, in terms of how can the air that looks so controlled and almost invisible in this bottle lead to all the weather and climate that we get over the globe. The teachers need to get across the message that understanding the science of climate change is very important, because often we just concentrate on the impacts.
I think that encapsulates one of the big challenges for us as geographers, is that you're talking about a huge issue that has a whole matter of science behind it, and that is very important to us as geographers, in the way the atmosphere works and how complex that is. And then you've got the whole environmental human interactions part of it, and the impacts, the consequences for the environment and for people, and our role in that. And that's a huge amount to unpick, and that's what makes it sometimes a challenging topic and a difficult topic to teach sometimes, and one that sometimes isn't taught too well because of that complexity.
That's the expert's opinion on how to use the resources, but it's up to the team to plan their own lesson on climate change.
How shall we approach the starter? We talked about the ring, didn't we?
Yeah, I think passing round the ring to each pupil, letting them have a good feel of it, good look at the ring, pass it around quickly, and then the question, sort of, what might you need this for if you lived in an area. If we can bring this resource in, this is showing a very important area to the whole global warming issue. So we can link that in nicely, the globe, link this in, have it on the wall. And that's a good starter to get them thinking about the issues.
And perhaps they don't, I think that's a fantastic idea, and perhaps they don't need to pass it around too much. Perhaps that's a more speedy kind of like, what's this about? And then later, when you want them to spot that it's been made in China, maybe that can be the more hands-on bit.
So someone needs to blow it up. And
The rubber ring, I think, was particularly a good example of what you can get out of random objects, because simply that rubber ring we then got made in China, plastic factories. China, it's transported over to the UK, the CO2 emissions involved there. It shows you can make a lesson out of almost any object, I think.
They're coming up with some interesting ideas about how to use the article.
And whether you give them a piece of A3 paper and they just put the graph down and then they annotate it. They haven't actually stuck it, but they just annotate it so they can have some notes that they can then brainstorm and get their ideas back.
If we separate them as well, we can also not only ask them what does this source tell us, but what else do you want to know? And so then when they come back together as a 3, they can say, well, actually, I'm really confused because what are these figures? And so then that person can be like, well, actually, this.
I think the article helped us frame the main activity, or one of the main activities of the lesson, to actually give the students detail, give them graphs, give them information, and also recognising that particularly global warming, it is a scientific theory, although it would appear to be there's a lot of evidence. It is a theory, and science moves on and discovers new things. So really, you need to teach it in that framework.
And we can maybe have this at the front the whole time. I don't know, the sticker on it saying, why does this matter? And then we go, well, you know, here it is, the atmosphere, this is it. It's in this, it's like controlled and we know where it is, but you know, we can't see it. It's vital to us. Look, it's this fine skin on our globe.
Resources are key to a good lesson. They don't have to be expensive, they don't have to be complicated, they don't have to be technology bound. A good resource will do you for a Year 6 lesson or an undergraduate lecture. You don't need complicated resources, but you need to think about making links between different things.
So maybe we bring this in the end to make some greater sort of philosophical point about its absolute importance to life on Earth and how it's in our hands.
People tend to switch off when they hear about climate change. They think, oh, I've heard all this before. But in reality, this is an opportunity to get deeper, to go below the sort of the skin deep and actually understand the causes of climate change.
With only a few minutes to spare, Katie and Stuart need to decide how they're going to team teach while Paula gets the resources ready.
Okay, right, so now we need to actually work out our timings a bit more precisely and who's going to do which part.
I don't mind doing the starter activity with the rubber ring.
Could I summarise then up to this point, and I'll introduce the fact we're doing who is responsible and put that on.
And I know that Katie and Stuart, as they were doing their final planning, would have been feeling a little bit the pressure of time. Identifying what they're going to focus on will probably be quite a challenge, and then how to make best use of all the resources and not over-focus on one or miss another might be a challenge as well.
I know.
I need to make a decision because I think we've got them in about 5 minutes.
Let's keep it how it is then.
So you're going to pass the ring around, introduce a concept map.
With the world mapper as part of that concept map.
I thought we should cut the article up because it gives each student a focus, a starting point. And if you give them only one bit and that's all you ask them to read and you give them time to do that, then it focuses them and they're more likely to pick up on some of the key points.
Stuart, Katie, we've got 5 minutes and we need to blow up our ring as well.
Right. Starter. God.
Yeah. No, you're giving it to one child.
Right.
So choose a child now, so we're not worrying about that. Who are we going to give it to?
Mice. We've got the newspaper cutting.
Yeah, it's one back the maps and the paper cutting press.
There's the final touches to the resources, and the pupils look ready to learn. But will Katie keep on track with the lesson plan?
And even though I'd sort of written it out, it wasn't very neat, I hadn't had time to neaten it up, and so that worried me, that would I follow my thoughts through.
Alphabetical order is staying, guys. Right then, we've got this image here, a makeshift arrow here pointing to somewhere on this image. Who'd like to tell us where it's pointing to, roughly, which sort of country here? There was a lot of anxiety leading up to it, and we were thinking, are we gonna flop here? Is the lesson gonna fail? Bangladesh, yeah, superb, straight away. Right then, if I give that to you, have a feel of it, have a look at it, try and think why you might need this if you lived here in the future.
Oh, because there's a lot of flooding in Bangladesh, and because of global warming, it's just going to get worse.
Super. So a bit like the rubber ring was particularly useful in engaging the pupils, grabbing their attention, linking it instantly to what we were doing. It played sort of like a short, sharp role.
Because you did see the kids sort of sit up and think, well, what is this great spotty rubber ring doing here? And they went from establishing a location on the satellite image of Bangladesh and then unpicking from there what might be happening there and why that might be happening.
How does this, other than the link we've already had with flooding, how could this link us to climate change again? Have a look at it. And then you've got to pass it on.
Where's it made? China. That's probably then.
Like it got you asking different questions about it. Like with the rubber ring, it was like, where's it come from and how is that linked into it?
How could this be used to help us understand and link to climate change? Anyone got any thoughts? Harriet?
Globalisation is really behind climate change, and even though we need everything from other countries, we have to use planes and things to get them there, which causes big climate change.
When you hear the word climate change, okay, what three things do you think of? What three things do you know about this topic? Okay, I'm going to give you about 2 minutes just to have a little think. I want you to write those three things down because it's going to help us in some of our discussion in a moment.
We knew they'd have some prior knowledge, but we didn't really know how well equipped they would be with that, how it would materialise on the day. So we felt that if we gave them a little bit of thinking time, which is where the jot down three things came from, that better helps you manage an effective question and answer afterwards, to try to establish shared understanding of climate change and the key elements of it. And I think that's probably the most daunting bit of the lesson, really, and that bit had to go well, otherwise that had to link into this responsibility and interdependence section, which was our real focus for the lesson.
2, 1, write pens down. Okay, Anisha, can you tell me, what have you got?
Global warming, pollution, water levels rising, it affects plants and animals, and melting ice caps.
Okay, excellent. So within that answer, you have got some causes and some impacts. So what we want to think about today is actually who is responsible for this and what can be done about that. Okay, so that is what we're looking at. Who is responsible? Mr. Dear.
Okay, so you've each got 3 different resources. What I want you to do is annotate as much as you can each resource to tell us what it's showing, and also I want you to think about what else you'd like to know on top of that information you've got. Again, I thought the newspaper article was really useful, good resource to give to the pupils, who then spun off with some amazing things from it. Connie, I noticed you were writing some good things down earlier. What would you like to say about the article?
It actually says that the average CO2 of each Briton is still much higher than that of Chinese people. And China are going through their industrial revolution right now. And at the time we were probably producing much more CO2 than they are.
Yeah, Roger, yeah.
Basically, and if you think about it, a lot of their CO2 is produced in the factories, and what they make in the factories comes to the big countries like England and USA. So really, it's sort of England and America's fault.
What you're talking about there is a link called an interdependent link. Get the word down if you haven't got it down already. It's a very important word in geography, and one that you'll find you'll use a lot as you go through geography into GCSE.
I was really pleased the way that they both presented, and I thought their styles were quite good together. They weren't too samey and they weren't too dull, and their handovers were nice, and it seemed quite relaxed and natural. And I think the students got that. I think they just went with the flow.
So using this to help us as well, so we can see where CO2 emissions are produced, and then your thoughts from this lesson, can we create as a group a concept map? So put in the places, and then I want you to explain how these places are linked together to actually reduce climate change, and also thinking about who actually is responsible.
We're in a society which relies on other countries. If Britain had to rely on its own sources, we would have a rubbish football team, eat fish and chips and get obese.
Yeah, so basically China is becoming a superpower.
Yeah.
So we can't really do anything.
Some great discussion around the room, and that's what I find really exciting, when you hear them talking away and arguing away with each other, and I was really pleased with that. That to me shows that we'd given them enough prompts to really get thinking, and that they were coming away, I guess, really empowered with that knowledge that they'd gained.
Right, there's one more thing then. all lessons. Has anyone noticed it?
Yeah.
Okay, there's something quite interesting inside it. Anyone got any ideas of what might be inside it? Meg? Oxygen, anything else inside it? Catherine?
Carbon dioxide.
Okay, excellent.
There'll be some nitrogen in the jar.
Okay, so generally what is in here is this little bit here. Okay, it is our atmosphere. Really, really important stuff, and that is the stuff that is changing, and that is the stuff, because this is changing, that we need to make our changes. Okay guys, thank you very much. Well done.
For more suggestions about using resources, go to www.teachers.tv.
And now I'd like to know from you, what do you think about that lesson? Any initial comments?
I thought it was better than our normal geography lessons because we got more involved. Each one of them gave you something different.
I really enjoyed thinking about other countries and not only how they're affecting global warming, but how we're affecting them in doing that.
I love hearing people's synthesising their ideas and expressing those things, and just having a realisation, like light bulb moments, and that was really exciting to hear those. So that's made the lesson for me.
I like the resources bit because you actually get to look at a resource which is just normally just forgotten and put aside in normal life, but if you look at it geographically you can see that there's a lot more to it that you wouldn't normally notice.
You are right.
It was just exciting to see them deliver their opinions. It was a really good experience. We've had a great day. I think I've learnt a lot from it.
I've learned a lot more and I remember this lesson because it was really different from what we usually do.
That approach works very well, and it worked well with those students today, and some of their comments at the end about what they now understand better were really, really heartening. I'm thinking, yes, we've made a difference there, and that is the point of school geography. So that's good.